Hey friends, it's Michael, and in this video, I wanted to take a little bit of time to tell you guys why I'm pretty excited about the new edition of Horus Heresy that is coming up fairly soon. So first of all, I think one of the big things that is important to note here is that it looks like Horus Heresy is going to have more support from Games Workshop moving forward, especially since Games Workshop appears to be intending the Horus Heresy to be one of their main games, quote unquote. I think that for the most part, it looks like Heresy is still going to be mostly under the control of Forge World, but Games Workshop, I think, is going to be doing a lot of plastic kits for the game. And presumably they're also throwing a lot more development money at the game system. And I apologize a little bit for the shaky camera. I have it on my little Gorilla Pod thing, and when I move my hands on my desk, the camera shakes a little bit. So forgive me for that. But so, as I was saying, I think Games Workshop is essentially throwing more money at Horus Heresy. One of the things we've seen recently was the rebranding of the logo, because the game is now Warhammer, the Horus Heresy. And so I think Games Workshop has big plans for the system. More support from Games Workshop, in theory, means more frequent releases, more plastic miniatures, possibly even a slightly more frequent book release schedule. A couple of years ago, there was the rumor that Horus Heresy would be moving more toward a Necromunda style release schedule, meaning more frequent kits and a book every, I think the rumor was a book at least once a year, if not slightly more frequently than that. And so for me, that's pretty exciting personally. And I think it's one of those things where a lot of people are a little bit wary of getting too many supplements from Games Workshop. But I think the thing is, you can always ignore those supplements. If you have a local gaming group that doesn't feel like playing with Horus Heresy Warzone books 3, 4, and 5, then don't use those books. Just like, everything is completely optional. And I'm kind of hoping that, this obviously all remains to be seen because the new edition is unknown at this point. I'm hoping that Horus Heresy also doesn't take the path that 40K has taken so far, with each supplement book adding more stratagems and more units and more must-have items. In a way, I think Horus Heresy is a little bit immune from that because Space Marines are easier to balance against other Space Marines, so you have less of a balancing issue right there. And I think the fact that it looks like right now there's going to be a Loyalist book and a Traitor book in addition to the main rulebook. Now, it remains to be seen whether at some point down the line Games Workshop is going to be doing Legion codexes, where you might see 2 or 3 or 4 legions all covered under one codex, for lack of a better word. But right now, it looks like all of the Loyalist legions are going to be under one book. All of the Traitor legions are going to be under one book. And until that changes, I think that is going to speak for a fairly balanced game system, especially once you consider that a lot of Horus Heresy players have more of an emphasis on narrative play rather than chasing the latest super competitive builds for their armies. So to kind of wrap up that point, Games Workshop making Horus Heresy one of their main games, quote unquote, means more support, which is great. Cool. So that more support basically is one of the reasons I'm excited about the upcoming edition. The next point that kind of leads into that is a wider availability. If Games Workshop is giving Horus Heresy more support, that means the potential and possibility for more plastic kits. And plastic kits tend to be available in more places than just the resin Forge World kits. So in theory, you should be able to get your plastic Deimos Rhinos and Predators at your local game store, or at your local or not so local online discounter, which means a little bit of a savings for everybody involved. You are not going to be limited to paying solely Forge World prices for your Horus Heresy tanks and vehicles, and presumably basic army list troops choices, which is really great. I do think that the latest Forge World price hike has made a lot of items somewhat inaccessible to the average player. There are some choices in the army list that I refuse to buy just because I think the miniatures are too expensive. The Javelin Landspeeder tends to be one of those. I really like the way it looks, but at the same point in time, I'm not paying $100 for a resin miniature that's slightly smaller than a Rhino and has roughly the same survivability on the table as a Rhino. Especially when you look at the standard Horus Heresy issue, that things are usually better in 2s or 3s. So I'm hoping that wider availability is going to mean more plastic vehicles, which means that they're going to be slightly cheaper than the resin versions, and obviously easier to get for a much wider audience. The next point is, obviously, a new edition will hopefully mean a lot of new players. I think that, in general, a lot of the sentiment that I seem to see online is that a lot of 40K players are getting fairly dissatisfied with the game for a variety of reasons. One of these seems to be, to me at least, looking in from kind of the outside, because I very rarely get to play 40K games with my Orc army, the super competitive slant of the current rule set. So 40K right now seems very geared toward tournament players and competitive play, which I think is turning off a lot of more casual players from the game. Horus Heresy inherently sort of has more of a narrative emphasis on gameplay. So what I'm really hoping is that a lot of players that are dissatisfied with 40K will switch over to Horus Heresy, see that the emphasis tends to be on more casual games than a competitive tournament rule set like 40K is turning into. And, of course, more new players means more people to play the game against, which is really great. So yeah, new players are awesome. New players means you get to see more people painting armies. You get to see everybody's unique takes on their Legion color schemes. And that's really cool, I think, for the greater hobby community in general. It's always cool seeing more painted miniatures. And yeah, so new players. Another thing that ties into all of this more support stuff is new miniatures. I think Warhammer Community recently stated that a lot of Legion-specific units would stay in resin, but that also seems to imply that we'll be getting a lot of new plastic units and plastic kits. The Leviathan has gone last chance to buy. Most, if not all, of the Contemptor weapons and the basic Contemptor body have gone last chance to buy. The standard resin Deimos Rhino has gone last chance to buy. I feel like I've seen leaked images that seem to imply that plastic Deimos, Rhinos, and Predators are coming. The Leviathan disappearing from the Forge World web store seems to also imply that a plastic Leviathan is coming at some point, which is super exciting, because I know that the resin one, I don't know for sure, but I imagine that the resin Leviathan Dreadnought is one of Forge World's best-selling Dreadnought kits right now, or at least was. So yeah, new edition means new miniatures, which is really exciting. Miniatures in plastic, which means that they're going to be easier to convert, easier to paint, easier to build than their resin equivalents. They are going to be more friendly to new hobbyists who may not have experienced working with resin miniatures in the past. And I really do think that, I really do think that we are going to see more plastic kits for Horus Heresy than any of us have expected. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised. I think we're going to see multiple waves of new supported plastic kits for the new edition. And I think it's a pretty exciting time to be in the hobby, or to get into the hobby. So yeah, I think that's all. I think that's pretty, I mean, we're excited. I just watched the Horus Heresy cinematic trailer right before I sat down to make this video. And every time I watch it, I get excited all over again, because I think there's some fantastic potential coming up. And I hope you guys are just as excited as I am. I'm even stuttering a little bit because I'm this excited to get my points out. So yeah, I guess we will see. And last but not least, I wanted to mention that this next upcoming weekend is Warhammer Fest, which I think runs from the 4th through the 7th of May. I think it starts on Thursday and runs through either Saturday or Sunday. May 7th is the big emphasis on Horus Heresy. That's all. I think that's also the Horus Heresy Open Day, which will see a bunch of influencers. Excuse me, guys. Which will see a bunch of influencers and content creators at Warhammer World, along with standard ticket holders to get to experience the all-new edition. I think this is going to be a preview of the rules, sort of a little bit of a chance for people to get to experience the new edition and see what it plays like. I suspect that the rest of May is going to see a lot of rules previews in addition to more miniature previews. And I think we're going to see a full release of the new edition, or at least wave 1 of the newer releases, in June. So I think we've got some really exciting times coming up. Let me know in the comments down below what you're excited about in terms of new edition. Let me know if you're going to be buying into the new edition. Let me know if you have an army ready and what legion you play. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with your grandma. I will try to cut down on the camera shaking in the next video if I can. I'm also working on an Alpha Legion lore video that is coming up at some point that I'm excited to share with all of you guys. But today I wanted to go ahead and do another sit and chat, since I like sharing my thoughts on Horus Heresy, in case that's not obvious from the rest of the content on this channel. So I will catch you guys later, and talk to you guys soon. Bye.